The Rio Declaration on Environment and Development was approved by the United Nations during the Conference on Environment and Development held in Rio de Janeiro on June 1992. It was aimed at reaffirming the Declaration of the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment adopted at Stockholm on June 1972. The Declaration adopted a set of principles to guide the future development. These principles define the right of people to development and their responsibilities to safeguard the common environment. The Rio Declaration states that the only way to have long-term economic progress is to link it with the environmental protection. This will only happen if the nations establish a new and equitable global partnership involving governments, their people, and key sectors of societies. They must build international agreements that protect the integrity of the global environmental and the developmental system. Rio Declaration include following principles. Human beings are at the center of sustainable development concerns. So, human beings are at the center of concerns for sustainable development, so they are entitled to a healthy and productive life in harmony with nature. States have the sovereign rights to exploit their own resources. So, states have, in accordance with the Charter of United Nations and principles of international law, the sovereign right to exploit their own resources pursuant to their own environmental and developmental policies and responsibility to ensure that the activities within their jurisdiction or control do not cause damage to the environment of other states or areas beyond the limits of national jurisdiction. For the third principle is the right to development must be realized in order to meet the developmental and environmental requirements. So, the right to development must be fulfilled so as to equitably meet developmental and environmental needs of present and future generations. 4 is the environmental protection. So, in order to achieve sustainable development, environmental protection shall constitute an integral part of the development process and cannot be considered in isolation from it. 5. All states and people must collaborate in the critical mission of eradicating poverty as a prerequisite for sustainable development. So, all states and all people shall cooperate in the essential task of eradicating poverty as an indispensable requirement for sustainable development in order to decrease the disparities in standards of living and better meet the needs of majority of the people of the world. 6 is the unique circumstances and needs of developing countries. So, the special situation and needs of developing countries, particularly the least developed and those most environmentally vulnerable, shall be given special priority, and international actions in the field of environment and development should also address the interests and needs of all countries. 7. States must work together. So, states shall cooperate in a spirit of global partnership to conserve, protect, and restore the health and integrity of the Earth's ecosystem. So, in the view of the different contributions to global environmental degradation, states have common but differentiated responsibilities, and the developed countries acknowledge the responsibility that they bear in the international pursuit of sustainable development in view of the pressures their societies place on the global environment and of the technologies and financial resources they command. States should decrease and remove unsustainable production and consumption habits. So, to achieve sustainable development and higher quality of life for all people, states should reduce and eliminate unsustainable patterns of production and consumption and promote appropriate demographic policies. 9. Improving scientific understanding through scientific and technological knowledge exchanges. So states should cooperate to strengthen endogenous capacity building for sustainable development by improving scientific understanding through exchanges of scientific and technological knowledge, and by enhancing the development, adaptation, diffusion, and transfer of technologies, including new and innovative technologies. 10 is the environmental issues. Environmental issues are best handled with the participation of all concerned citizens at the relevant level. At the national level, each individual shall have appropriate access to information concerning the environment that is held by public authorities, including information on hazardous materials and activities in their communities, and the opportunity to participate in decision-making processes. So states shall facilitate and encourage public awareness and participation by making information widely available, effective access to judicial and administrative proceedings, including redress and remedy, and shall be provided.
Principle 11. Environmental policies. Based on Principle 11, environmental legislation must be enacted by the state. Environmental standard, management objectives, and priorities should all be tailored to the specific environmental and development context. Some countries' standard may be wrong and impose unjustified economic and social costs on other countries, particularly emerging countries. Next, principle number 12, environment protection and education. To better address the problem of environmental degradation, states should work together to build a supportive and open international economic system that lead to the economic growth and sustainable development in all countries. Environmental trade policy should not be used as a tool for arbitrary or unreasonable discrimination or a covert limitation on international trade. It is best to avoid taking unilateral action to address environmental issues that are not under the jurisdiction of importing countries. Environmental measures addressing transboundary or global environmental issues should be based on the international consensus as much as practicable. Principle number 13, rational management and resource. Based on Principle 13, state must adopt national legislation regarding pollution and other environmental damage, victims' liability, and compensation. State must also work together to build new international law on accountability and compensation for adverse environmental effects and produced by activities within their jurisdiction or control in place beyond their authority in a timely and determined manner. Principle number 14, rational planning. States should work together to discourage or prevent the relocation and transfer of the activities and chemicals that degrade the environment or are found to the detrimental to human health to the other countries. Principle 15, human settlement. According to Principle 15, in order to protect the environment, states should use the precautionary approach to the best of their abilities. When there is a risk of substantial or permanent damage, a lack of complete scientific assurance should not be used to justify delayed cause-effect environmental protection measures. Principle 16, human population. National government should work to promote the internalization of the environmental costs and the use of economic instruments, keeping in the mind that the polluter should in the theory bear the cost of pollution, but also considering the public interest and avoiding trade and investment distortion. Principle 17, setting of environmental pollution control agencies at national level. Propose activity that are anticipated to have a major negative impact on the environment and are subject to a decision by a competent national authority must undergo environmental impact assessment as a national instrument. Principle 18, use of science and technology. Natural disaster on other events that are likely to have a sudden negative impact on a state environment must be quickly reported to the other state. The international community must make every effort to assist these countries. Principle 19. Education in environmental matters. According to Principle 19, state must provide prior and timely notification of activities that may have a major adverse transboundary environmental effect, as well as relevant data to a potential effect state, and consult with them in good faith. In Principle 20, further science research. Principle 20, women have important role in environmental development and management to ensure sustainable development. Their full participation is required.